What is the duty of Canadian citizens to be good citizens? What does it mean to be a good citizen in our country? What do you think?
I think that a lot of people associate being a good citizen with compliance, as we've seen in this pandemic. If you do as you're told, if you wear your mask and you wash your hands and sanitize your hands and get vaccinated, you're automatically a good citizen. But I think being an actual good citizen goes beyond that. And I mean, us as Canadians, we're often looked at, and the stereotype is that we're the good guys, or we're nice, or whatever it is.
Mm.
And I don't actually think that that's a compliment. I think that we're so obedient and compliant with a lot of things that happen, and we're not really aware of the things that happen, that people think that they think that we're the nice guys, which I don't actually think is a good thing. I don't think it's good that that's our
Hmm.
stereotype. I think being a good citizen goes beyond just doing as you're told, but it also is questioning what you're told,
Yeah.
right? Because then if you don't, that's when things go downhill. So it's questioning, um, it's actually participating in the things that are going on around you, participating in politics, which I don't think we do as much as we should, which is why we're in the current situation that we are. But I think it goes beyond just listening and doing as you're told.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. So let's talk about the participation aspect
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like, especially among students, our generation, they don't participate much in politics. I mean, like, I've got friends who are sometimes not even aware there was an election. They're like, "Oh my God, there's like lines in the polls, and I don't know what's going on." And I'm like, "Yeah, there's like an election going on."
I think I think there are some people that are our age that are invested in politics, but they're more invested in social justice than they really are in actual politics. And then there's a lot of people who just don't pay attention to either.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's an issue. I think that that's a problem.
Well, first, let's define what's a good citizen. What actually qualifies as a good citizen? Because you mentioned there's a huge issue that Canadians are known for being compliant. They're known
Mm-hmm.
for being nice.
Mm-hmm.
And as the story goes, nice guys finish last, right? In every race, in every sport, in every business, the nice guy is always going to be last and not going to be at the top. It's always the disagreeable people that make it on top of their field. They're not particularly very nice people. Because they disagree with things, they stand up for themselves, and then people treat them with fairness and with respect. But a person who is always obedient, always compliant, will be will be stomped on. They will be walked all over by the government or by another individual,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's suffering and there's loss.
I don't think that necessarily being a good citizen, I don't think you have to be a bad person, like, and be mean. Like, you can still be a kind person, you can still be a nice person. I think that's so important as well. But I think it's not just you're not just going to get through life being nice and avoiding conflict and avoiding problems and just hoping that things disappear. And I know a lot of people that are like, "Oh, I don't get involved in politics. It'll solve itself." And it's
Yeah.
no, no, it won't, because then that's how we end up in situations that we're in. Um, I think that being a good citizen, obviously there are rules you have to follow in a civilized society. That's obvious.
Hmm.
But I mean, I think I just think standing up for what's right. There's a lot that's been going on that people know is wrong, but they go along with it anyways. I don't think that's being a good citizen at all. Your fellow Canadians are losing their jobs. Your fellow Canadians are losing their education, and they just stand by and let it happen. They're
Hmm.
bystanders, or they encourage it and perpetuate it. And that's not being a good citizen. I think being a good citizen is standing up for those people, and it's even going against the narrative if you think it's wrong. I think that's what makes a good citizen a good person.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, there has to be a distinction between a bad person and somebody who is disagreeable because that's a big distinction,
Mhm.
right? people who are disagreeable in general or would stand up for themselves are not necessarily bad people,
No.
right? They're not necessarily mean. They might come off mean because they're standing up for themselves, and some people might not like that. But at the end of the day, they're standing up, they're defending themselves, and they're defending their company or their values or their principles, right? But if we're all going to just give up our principles because we don't want to upset anybody, that's when we get in trouble, because then you don't hold true to your convictions. And that's what we've seen with the pandemic is the government challenged us. The government challenged our convictions, our beliefs, and in freedom and liberty and personal responsibility. And people just gave that away because they're like, oh, I don't feel like defending that. I don't want to cause conflict. I'm just gonna abide by the authority and, comply with the institutions, comply with the universities because, oh my God, they're authority, right?
Mhm.
Well, but that's a problem because they are giving up their rights and not being good citizens standing up for those, because if you don't retain those rights and if you don't stand up for yourself, you're going to be like, people are going to walk all over you. They're going to take away everything that you have.
You briefly mentioned this, but having strong principles, I think, is also very important. We've, like you've mentioned, we've lost that over the course of this pandemic, and I think we've been losing it even before this pandemic.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any convictions, if you don't, or strong convictions that you're willing to stand up for, regardless of what they are, if you don't have strong principles that you choose to follow in your life, even when people make it difficult for you to do that, that's not a good citizen.
Yeah.